the second part of a video on how to replace the bearings in rocker arms on LS engines. We're installing the Summit Racing bearings and trunnions. Comes in this kit. There is a proper tool from Summit Racing you can get to install these. I don't have that, so I'm making do with bench vise and some sockets. So the first thing to do with these is, if you look at the instructions that comes from Summit Racing, it does tell you about how you need to clean off the bearings and which way to put them in. So these are my rocker arms that we cleaned. We pushed the bearings out of in the first video. Since then I've cleaned them and got them ready for installing the new bearings in. These are the new bearings, new trunnions, and the little snap rings that come in the Summit Racing kit. So what we're going to do, we're going to take one of the rocker arms and one of the bearings. We're going to install the bearing in the orientation it says in the manual. And what I've got here, this is a 14mm 3/8 drive socket, but it's a deep one, and this will actually fit really nicely through the rocker arm and against the bearing just there. And what we can do with that, we can now take this and put this in the bench vise. I've put some padding on the jaws of the bench vise just to protect the rocker arm a little. We're just going to get this nice and lined up, and then it's very important to get this lined up, otherwise you can damage your bearings. We're just going to very carefully push this in. It's going in quite nicely. We don't want to go too hard at this. If it's gone hard, back off. It's come out of line. You need to reseat it. But yeah, we're just going to slowly wind this in so the bearing is flush with the inside of the rocker arm. And we can let this out. We can pull out the socket, and then we can see in here that the bearing is nice and flush. It's not sticking out, and that's how it should be. Then take one of our trunnions that come in the Summit Racing kit. We're going to install that into here. And we should see it should be nice and free, not binding or anything. That's what we want. So next, take another one of the bearings, like so. We're going to install it in the correct orientation over the trunnion, and I find if you push the trunnion back a bit just to line it up nicely. Next, what we're going to do, I'm using a 5/8 3/8 drive socket. This is a 12-sided socket, and this is a short one. And why I'm using this is because it fits over the top of the trunnion but hits the bearing, which is what we want. Now we're going to use this to get it started, but we're going to need to add another socket in once we've got it started. I'll show you that in a minute, but first I'm just going to get this lined up nice and straight. We're going to push it in a little bit, so it's about halfway in now. And now, if I pull this off, you can see we've got that nicely halfway in. We need to put another socket over the back side because the trunnion will push against the chucker, the vice jaw, and what we'll end up doing is damaging it. So what we need another socket. This is a 3/4 inch socket. That will fit over the trunnion and the bearing, and what we can do with that, we can use that to support the rocker arm. I'm going to wind this out a bit more so we can get it in. I need to wind it out a little bit more. It's about as far as this vice will go. I'm just going to carefully does it. Put that back in here. And we can then make sure we've got it all nicely lined up. I'm going to push it in a little bit further. Okay. Now that's nice and flush. I can pull that back. Now, that is both the bearings now installed. Now you'll notice we've gone a bit too tight on this. What we've got to do with this, we've got to make sure there's enough room for the trunnion to move freely and not hindered, but as per the specs in the manual, you don't want any more than 5 thousandths to 10 thousandths of an inch of side-to-side movement. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take that socket which is too big over here, and I'm going to push one of the bearings back a little. We can see on this side the bearing's in a little further than the other side, so I'm just going to push this back a little bit. So it doesn't take much. As I say, we're talking, thousandths of an inch here, so
You don't need much. And now, that's nice and free, it spins freely. There's not much in the way of side-to-side play. In fact, I don't think there's barely any on there. And it's nice and free. Now, it's very important that we get this central. So, if we look at the bearings, that top one's flush, that bottom one's flush. That's how we want it. And it's free, as I say. As I say, this is not the proper recommended way that Summit Racer would say, and I would absolutely advise you to get the kit and do it their way, but if, like me, you've not got the kit and you need it doing quickly, you can do it this way. Alright, thanks for watching.